Hello and welcome everybody. This is a video journal where I'm kindly just wanting to reflect on the week that I had. Essentially, I don't know if this is going to be a daily occurrence, weekly occurrence, or monthly occurrence. I'm just going with the flow with this. Essentially, I wrote down things throughout the week, and I am generally just wanting to speak my mind about various things, catalog my experiences, and stuff like that because it's very therapeutic. It really gets me into kindly not just like exposing myself, but mostly mostly allows you guys to understand some stuff, and I can look back upon later on after this year's over and stuff like that. So Monday first. Monday was a very eventful day. I've only been in the science department the entire day, and how the basic structure of the building is working now is the two exits are entrances, and the entrance is an exit. Now that sounds rather weird, but hear me out. So there's an entrance to the first floor and there's an entrance to the second floor because exits are now entrances, right? So basically, you can only go up certain stairs. You can only go down certain stairs, and this is meant to help people basically social distance. This is not like something super like efficient or anything like that because these buildings were not created with that in mind, but we're trying to work with what we got. So when it came to the first day, it was really confusing, somewhat irritating, I'll be honest with you, because I'm very used to just taking the entrance inside and then the exit's the entrance. And if you had to go to the bathroom, because boys' bathrooms, there we go, they're the fourth floor and second floor. And if you have a class located on the first floor, you have to go up the stairs, use the bathroom, then go out the building, and then go around the building, go through the exit, and get back to your class, which seems very inefficient in terms of time. If you have to leave a class, more than likely you're going to miss a lot. So use the bathroom before you go there. You could also, if you're like kind of smart about it, I think you can just go into the. Um, we have like a little gas station kind of thing just across the science building, and you can use the bathroom in there and just go through the first floor entrance, no problem. Um, but it was slightly irritating, I won't lie, because it's very, very like it's against your better judgment, really. Um, then, because I had all my classes in science hall, um, that day went by super fast because I didn't have to go too far away from the building before the next class. We're not supposed to go to classes early, but I kind of did because what else am I supposed to do? They roped off like the guild corner where I would usually hang out between classes, and they took that away, and everywhere else is kind of like I don't want to be near people, but at the same time I can't wait here because it would basically be a detriment to how the arrow system works. I took Math 110. Math 110 was extremely funny. I really liked the teacher. He's very down to earth. He's definitely like old timey because he said he's been teaching for 34 years, which that's great. I think I'm going to get along with him extremely well. He makes a lot of logical sort of jokes to get your attention. So his first thing was there's a caveman, right? And he's holding up something in his hand. What is he holding up? And a lot of people say a club, a torch. I would personally think maybe a dangling small animal. Who knows? Because he might have been hunting. Like there's various things that he could be holding, but the idea is to think logically about what he's holding. And then he brought up the idea that authority also teaches logic. And what it means by that, he demonstrated something where he sees something green waving in the distance. The leader of the sort of like tribe, I would say, basically stops, halts, pulls out his club, and starts yelling, right? And eventually he tells the whole tribe what he thinks it is, which he says tree. um, then people are going to look around and either say yes or no to that, right? But if the person says no, he immediately just bashes them with a club and says tree, until they finally guess it right, because who wants to get hurt further? So he brought up the idea of authority and repercussions really mold our minds into how we perceive reality. I thought that was very interesting for a first day sort of impression, without a doubt. Physics, it was rather straightforward. The guy is rather down to earth too, so that was very fun. Later on in the week, I will find out that I suck with sciences. I'm good with psychology. I'm good with quite a bit of other things, but my main thing is I enjoy math. I'm good at math. I'm good at programming. I'm good at all sorts of things. But the main thing is I never realized how bad I was converting measurements, definitely from empirical to metric, and I was dumbfounded. Which was not a good impression I wanted to give the professor before taking this class. But I also realized there was a quiz just yesterday, which was Friday. There was a quiz where he put like plus 5 meters, which he meant purely 5 meters, as in the 5 meter mark, because you start at -10 and I saw plus 5 meters. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be -5 meters. And then no, it was literally just positive 5 meters. That's where it went to, instead of just. I don't know why I made that mistake. I did. It was meant to test displacement and distance and everything else. I got displacement right, but I didn't get the total distance right, because I, for some reason, got so confused with plus 5. Because I thought it was literally just adding 5 meters to the right. So I'm stupid in that regard. I will admit to it. So that was obvious of like the class is going to be something I need to be attentive towards. I actually do not feel as comfortable with it because I just now realized I have to work harder in that class than anything else. But the first day, first impressions, nice guy. He seems to like to smile a lot, but he also likes to kind of show technical concepts. It's just general physics, and he told us early on, you plug and chug, aka put stuff in a calculator and just go with it. You might get a C, you might get a B, you're not going to get an A, and that means I'm going to have to deeply learn the concepts that he's trying to have us have drilled into our heads. So that's going to be great. Next class was calculus. And I studied over the summer. That's what I would do on my free time when I was not streaming and drawing and making music. I was flat out doing calculus. I wanted to learn continuity, discontinuity, and various other things within limit functions. And so far, it's going great. It's the same professor as I always had for the math classes, so it's not much of a difference. But the main thing is I'm probably going to have to study a lot on my own instead of with the professor, because based off the class structures previously, I just did not get concepts he was teaching, so I'm just going to have to rely on YouTube to help me understand concepts within the curriculum so I make sure I don't fall behind. Personally, and this is me just being very honest, Um, the professor's a really nice person, but the problem is he's not a good professor. And that's kind of where I have a hard time learning from him. So, not just that, he seems very like non-authoritative. Um, Normally I get like, if I'm being like absolutely honest, I get very motivated whenever a teacher calls me out on my BS. Um, or like tries to challenge me to do something better than what I was doing already. But he just kind of just tells me I'm doing good. And that's it. So I think that's something to realize. Um, Personally, I like the teacher. He's a nice guy. Just he doesn't really challenge me as a student, and that kind of makes me get lazy. I will fully admit there. Um, so um, Another thing is that I have three roommates now, um, and two of them are generally outside the house most of the time. I don't, if I'm streaming or anything like that, I don't think they're going to interrupt unless I'm doing it like late in the night. Um, and then there's one that's always home most of the time, unless it's like lunchtime or dinner time and stuff like that. And he goes to use his meal ticket and stuff like that. Um, he might like occasionally pound on my door or something, but nothing to be afraid of. They're really good people. So I'm very happy to have the roommates I have, and especially since like conceptually on like in terms of like pandemic and stuff like that, it in the other dorm system it was we have 1,000 people to one singular ventilation system. With the current setup I have within the dorms, it's only 16 people to a single ventilation system, assuming that non-residents are not going to be occupying the compound, essentially. So that's great. So my chances and risk of getting something is drastically lowered comparatively. So that's wonderful. That's really awesome. By the way, if you are thinking I'm rather tired, that's because I just woke up. So that's always great. One thing I really do enjoy about this year thus far is my week is rather more open. Sorry. So what I mean by that, all my classes are in the morning, and there's straight up no classes on Thursday, which is fun for me. Personally, I love that. Obviously, I would, but the thing is like I thoroughly love having a bit more free time, and it seems like student organizations are going to be incapable or unable to do certain events, and that means we're not going to be very event heavy. If we're not event heavy, that means they have more free time for uploading and streaming, and that's a good thing. Problem is, of course, if I have more free time, that means I have to figure out what to do with my free time. And I usually like to think of things preemptively whenever I'm streaming and stuff like that. So it'd be really weird if I just do it in the moment. We're doing this, and that'd be kind of weird. Um, let's see here. Wednesday. That's the day I found out conversions were. I was bad at converting. However, like everything else was perfectly fine. Um, Thursday, nothing really happened. I just stayed at home. Friday, now this is kind of the funny part because Math 110, he gave us a bunch of wooden blocks or shapes. And he basically told us to name these shapes without using a mathematical or scientific term. And essentially, we picked up a block and we call it Brad Pitt because what's in the box, right? And we got a longer box that we just called Tall Brad Pitt. And there was a like half the size of the original block, and we just call it Compact Brad Pitt. We got a pyramid and just called it Egypt, and then we got an ice cream cone looking shape, and we just called it Round Egypt. We got a can, and I call it soup can, specifically Campbell's, because I thought it was funny, but it really helped them figure out which one was which. So that I was just trying to be kind of tongue in cheek about that one, but it helped them. um, but it was meant to convey that if we don't use mathematical terms to describe what we're seeing, then we're not going to convey it efficiently. If we don't convey it efficiently, then we're going to have a really hard time conveying it to people that do not know. So that's a really, really nice way of going about that lesson. I really enjoyed it. Uh, I went to public speaking Friday too for the first time. Public speaking, it was okay. There's not much to say. We didn't do much. She just taught us how to upload files and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, I can already do that. I've been doing YouTube for about like 2 to 3 years. So, yeah. Thanks. Um, Overall, the week wasn't too bad. And it seems that less and less people are going to lunch and dinner, so less chance of contamination. Everyone's following the rules. There's 0 positive cases of the current C virus, and that's wonderful. I really enjoy that. I'm thankful that that stuff is not happening, so that's wonderful. Um, One thing I definitely want to think about, and I had to write a paper this week, basically my thought process towards how people think, and I brought up something rather interesting. I brought up there's 2 aspects of our thought process. There's the intrinsic, aka interpersonal, and there's the extrapersonal. Interpersonal is basically your experiences and how you perceive the world around you. Obviously, your experiences can be negative, where you extinguish certain behaviors or become very skeptical based off certain aspects and situations presented to you that are very similar to outcomes of previous. And then the interpersonal is based around or positive experiences. I already got the first part. The positive experiences obviously allow you to try and continue certain behaviors because you got rewarded. It had a good outcome. So, if we were to put this in perspective, you studied for 4 hours straight for a single test and you get an A. So obviously you feel amazing and stuff like that, and you want to continue that behavior because it feels really good. It's gratifying, it's glorifying, and various other things. But obviously, because you universally relationships can go good or bad. If you have a bad relationship and your partner does exhibit certain behaviors, like he doesn't or they do not text as frequently. It's usually in 4 hour intervals, maybe certain other things, and they ended up cheating. You would probably become very suspicious of people that take long to text, right? So a lot of things can pan up to that sort of thing, right? So obviously that extinguishes certain behaviors or makes you skeptical of how you perceive reality. Um, and then there's the extrapersonal, which I believe is authority in society. Society basically dictates what we should think based off popular opinion. Our culture, customs, and how we basically perceive government is all based around the narrative structure of our society. Because we live in the USA, our society and customs is like a mixing pot, very, very diverse and stuff like that. But one thing to take into consideration, we have a heavy sense of nationalism, and we also have a heavy sense of not promoting nationalism, because there's people that wish to go against the status quo instead of actually dissecting the issues of society. And there's going to be people that rather only promote nationalism because they feel pride in the country, even though they're also blind to the issues within the country. So there's two, let's just say, polarizing ideals there. And basically, how you interpret events and various other things within society and what environment you live in is going to mold your thought process. Um, so yeah, and the authority. Obviously, you're not going to do certain things or think certain ways if there was repercussions. You directly get negative consequences towards whatever you're doing. Let's say you just sneezed in a public area and that was against the law. Now you got a fine, and either you don't want to do that again because the monetary value of your currency is obviously going to be depleted if you keep on doing that. So a lot of people will develop a stigma against breaking the rules. Obviously, there's going to be people that break the rules just because they think either the rules are not beyond them or anything like that. But it's all based around interpretations of how you view authority. Authority is something powerful, just like the caveman that bashed the man's skull in because he disagreed that was not a tree. He perceived it as a tree, therefore, if anyone wants to challenge him, he will make sure they are wrong, or the other people see the consequences of disagreeing and agree with him. Um, that's just like generally my process of how thought process goes. Now, honestly, it's deeper, interconnected sort of event structure and how we deal with certain situations also takes a massive peak in terms of thought process, and maybe even neurologically, our brains are different, such as people with dyslexia, autism spectrum, and stuff like that. They have different types of brains. So obviously, they may think differently. So there's quite a bit that I did not take into consideration, but the idea was to capture a more general sense of how we think, which was rather nice. There was not much else. What I did, I just been mostly keeping hygienic, very, very hygienic, to make sure I don't catch anything. I've been somewhat limiting the people I see and stuff like that because there's a policy against non-residents and stuff like that, which is fun. Sorry. Yeah, yawn. Um, I think I'm very uncertain about a lot of things. I feel like we're just gonna immediately get sent back home and stuff like that, or something drastic is gonna happen where someone dies or something. I don't know. There's always a sense of very positive pessimism with me. Positive pessimism is that this is a negative thing, but it's for the benefit of others or myself or stuff like that, right? And obviously, being at college is going to be to the detriment of preventing the spread of a virus, right? Because obviously there's going to be people that become extremely complacent and then lazy, and then they're going to spread it. especially with a lot of people having parties during college. This is a very continuous sort of provoking mindset that I have, where I'm very skeptical towards everyone following protocols 100% of the time to make sure everyone's fine. But no, there's a lot of people that are selfish out there that will not. So now I'm just kind of I don't know when I'm going to be coming back home. I don't know if I'm coming back home early or we're just going to get through Thanksgiving, no problem. Um, Another thing that I'm fairly skeptical of is essentially administration telling us 100% everything that is true. Because obviously, the administration gets more money if we stay in college because they don't have to refund us or anything like that. They can keep our money. And since it's mandated that freshmen stay in dorms their first semester, they're going to be missing out a lot of money if we get sent back. So, I don't know. Personally, if we were to eventually make a vaccine, even then, I don't feel comfortable. Um, I am very pessimistic, but that's only because sometimes, like I'm generally positive person. I like to believe in the best of people, and they have the best intentions and everything else. But the problem is, I cannot assume always the positive. You have to accept the negative aspect of your thought process, or you're just going to be blindsided by reality and various other concepts that are beyond you. So I am very skeptical of them telling the truth because obviously, if they don't tell the truth, they benefit more. Um, but we'll see how it works out. Um, Personally, this is my sophomore year of college. I'm not fully 100% ready for it. I don't think anyone's ready for this sort of thing to go on. And personally, I'm just happy to be here at the same time. Like, even though it's like, oh, there's a virus going on and stuff like that, I'm just happy to see the people that I care for again, and I can see they're okay. I don't have to worry as much and stuff like that, which kind of makes me really happy, despite the negative connotations of our meetings and stuff like that. Um, Personally, I don't want the people that I cherish to catch something. And I like if I catch it, fine. I think that way where it's like, well, if I was to catch it, then that'd be fine. But I would actually hate for someone that I care about to get it. I think that really bothers me because, like, at the end of the day, regardless of like circumstances or who catches what and stuff like that, if something was to happen to someone else, I would feel a lot worse. Um, Now, obviously, if it was somebody that they did everything stupid, like they went to a party that allowed non-residents of the college to go to it, and people that were untested, and they drank after other people, they start sweating together, and they didn't have masks on and stuff like that. That's on them. That's natural selection. I do not feel as bad. But if it was someone that I actually cared about, I have troubles accepting that. You know, um, it's the idea of it because a lot of things are preventable logically and sensibly. And in terms of common sense, yeah, a lot of things are preventable. And you think because of like certain structured organizations and stuff like that, this would never happen. But lo and behold, here we are, right? And I think the best of people is going to come out. I think the worst of people are going to come out. But I just hope that it doesn't affect anyone that I cherish. I would definitely hope that it doesn't affect the people watching. Um, because I know this sounds weird, and a lot of YouTubers go into this whole rambling of like, without you guys, I would not be doing this, blah blah blah. I will be honest with you. If I was not getting views or people supporting me constantly, I would I would have stopped. I would have gave up and packed up, went home. Um, I want to continue doing music because you guys seem to be enjoying it, and because you guys are enjoying it, I want to do the absolute best I can. Because you guys are joining in streams and having a cool time and stuff like that, I want to make sure I stream often. Um, Stuff like that. My mindset is simply just that. I want to do my best because you guys try your best to encourage me and motivate me. Um, but I also hate if something bad was to happen to anybody within the viewers. Um, I don't know. That's just my thought process. I wonder also is like, will my thinking change in a year from now? Like, that's kind of the concept behind these video journals. Will they change? Um, I probably will be more comfortable with explaining what I'm thinking and stuff like that, or being vulnerable. Because obviously, I don't really want to like go too deep into vulnerabilities and stuff like that because no one wants to feel negative. But like I said, you have to embrace your emotions and truly try and understand them. If you don't try and understand them, you're going to have a really, really hard time. Um, this is also extremely stream of consciousness. Um, Let me think. Is there anything else I need to bring up? Because obviously we're going to be starting to stream again, because the announcement video that I made previously basically said this is what we're going to be doing, stuff like that. Oh, there's another thing. This is also a political year. Where elections and stuff like that, and you're going to see a whole bunch of articles either like defamatory towards either candidate or technically president and candidate because technicality there. Um, Obviously, there's going to be slander campaigns, defamatory, and various other things, and I don't really feel comfortable with it. Like, I know in the grand scheme of everything, politics has always been about that. It's about making yourself look better compared to your opposing opponent. And a lot of people are either they're so far away from center where they can't really understand the other person's perspective. I find that very blindsiding and alienated. Because like, let's think of it this way. There's been videos on campus reform. I don't know if you guys have been watching those, but essentially they bring up Trump's ideas as Biden's ideas and see if people will agree with them and stuff like that. And most of the time they'll agree with them just because Biden said it. But as soon as it's revealed that Trump said it, they're surprised. And then the second thing is like, oh my goodness, that doesn't change the fact that he's a terrible person. It's like, I won't disagree with you. He's a terrible person. I won't disagree whatsoever. But if you agreed with his sentiments and his policies beforehand, then you should not just use that to devalue his character. There's obviously something called ad hominem. And ad hominem is basically when you attack a person's character rather than their argument. And a lot of people tend to do that on Twitter because they can't really make or formulate logical arguments. And I'm sorry that politics is constantly on my channel, but essentially, I don't support Trump. I don't support Biden, really. I don't really support either of them. I feel like this is going to be a reoccurring sort of mindset for the coming of years. Because personally, I feel that both candidates are awful people. I think most people can agree with that. And their policies always alienate a certain thing that I value. Within society, I value authority, but I also value good old diversity. So it's like one of those things where it's like both have something wrong, and I just don't like either thought of it. Because obviously people will feel a certain way and various other things about politics, and you're welcome to believe in what you believe in. Just make sure you are open to discussion, because no one's going to change because you yell at them or text in all caps, hey, that's not nice, you're a terrible person, you are a insert bad thing here. The main thing is, and this is my true sense of tolerance, is to accept the individual as who they are and discuss why do they think the way they do. A lot of people just immediately want to punch a Nazi. I'll put that in air quotes there. People want to immediately do that, but if you understand where they come from and why they think the way they do, you realize fairly quickly it was a very vulnerable, socially inadequate individual that was basically picked up and put into a position, and they basically crammed a whole bunch of idealistic stuff inside their heads. So because they were socially inadequate and they found a place of belonging, they're going to be diehard about it. They're going to stay with it because somebody accepted them. And the idea is that because they did not have a good social structure or support system or various other things, they're going to accept blindly of whoever accepts them. So they're going to do awful things because of that. Most of them never met who they hate. They never met someone or had a conversation with someone that they deemed irredeemable. The main thing is talk to people. I don't mean go out of your way to potentially get hurt or anything like that. Just have a casual conversation that's civil, keep your emotions in check, and just talk. I think that's the more idealistic way of going about it. Maybe you guys will not find a conclusion like the day of that conversation. Maybe it'll take months, maybe years. But first things first, someone has to take a step forward and realize what's going on. And a lot of people are like, but that could get you converted into it. If you feel strongly about your beliefs, you're not going to just change like that. Especially if you know that it's wrong, right? General consensus is no one wants to feel like the bad guy. Everyone wants to feel good. But the problem is sometimes you have to be the bad guy to figure out what is good. People are going to make bad decisions, and it's up to other people that are sensible and compassionate to speak to these individuals and figure out, hey, perhaps you shouldn't be doing this. How about we meet somebody that you hate and figure out if they're actually a good person? Because the fear of unknown is used for people, and the social inadequacy that we have nowadays is extremely susceptible to manipulation and stuff like that. There was a song that I really enjoyed, and it's called You Grew Up by Odyssey. It's spelled odd as an odd number, I as in hi, just I think. Um, and good old C as in I see that. He's a really good artist, and the music video is really nice in terms of like animation structure and stuff like that. And essentially, it has three sort of verses, and the first verse is about he had a white friend that he was basically inseparable from until he reached the teenage years, and they had a big fight because the father of that white kid got laid off because of cheaper alternatives. And throughout the video, you also see the change of these two characters throughout it, and essentially you notice that the kid had black eyes and stuff like that. Either he got beat at home, or he was very against like certain individuals, and he was ready for a fight constantly. But the main thing is the depiction of it was to not just say this kid was evil because they grew up in the same hood and everything else. The main thing is just that these individuals grew up and they started associating themselves with certain stereotypes and ideas. And it was not just oh, this guy was racist. It was a multitude of issues that kind of like caused it to happen. And one of the lines that I found very intriguing was his views got cracker and my views got blacker, aka they started associating their ideals and thoughts to their race. um, um, and one of the things is he brings up like one of the lyrics. He shot a black man in the same park that we used to shoot hoops. I can't blame him, but I can. All I can do is blame the cops. I should look up the actual lyrics so I don't butcher it, because I will actually feel sad if I did. Um, because it's a really good song. That's not the right song. What is that? Okay, there we go. So, um, my thoughts got blacker and his views got cracker. There was no way backwards to the roots of the heart. Many years apart, I recognized him in the news. He shot a black man that was sitting in his car near the same park that we used to shoot hoops. All I could blame was the cause. And then it goes immediately into the chorus that's like, you grew up, no you didn't change, you were made the same as those you came. You grew up. All your growing pains were given like our names. You grew. You just bought the blame. You grew up. And the second verse is basically, you ever have a friend that became a fanatic? Most of you haven't, but if you ever did, you would understand one thing they all have in common: that somebody took advantage of their damage as a kid. I knew a guy whose folks were professors, proof in the flesh that Allah was the blesser. Grew up in a Midwestern town where there weren't many brown people he could seek reflection. Got picked on in school during lectures. Graduated hating everybody in his class. Picked on because he prayed 5 to the east. And he didn't eat meat that Allah said was bad. One day a man approached him in a mosque, changed his life when he asked him a question. Do you ever feel that your life is a loss? And what if I could teach you that life is a weapon? There we go. Attracted strong to the feeling of acceptance, he was soon gone with the illusions of a cause. People of the present had faces of the past, made it easier to blast. Blast them, there we go, if he felt that he did him wrong. You can raise a child in a house full of love, but you can't keep them safe in a world full of hate. So he blew up. The only mistake that could hold all the blame. So the main thing is that he's bringing up all these issues that essentially we don't really take into consideration of other people's perspectives. The only thing people would say is that cop was racist 100%. He grew up in a white supremacist house and blah, blah, blah. Obviously, that was his friend, and he eventually did something awful that should not happen. But all he can blame is that there was a separation based off race and the ideals associated with race. And all he can do is blame the cause. He can't blame the person because it was not just he grew up racist or anything like that. It's just because there was ongoing issues and diverging paths. So I find it very interesting. And then he also brings up like essentially people that are extremely violent really do prey upon people that are not really socially adequate in terms of like environment, and they don't really get accepted all too often. You can convince someone that's had a terrible life filled with pain, sorrow, and just generally unacceptance of the people that surround them, and you can convince them to do some really awful things. The main thing is, and this is kind of my mindset of how I do streams, and I used to do streams, is I don't want to ban people. That's just generally what I prefer not to do, because whatever they're doing, it's going to be temporary. But the one thing also is that I want somewhere where some people can feel that they can belong. And I think that's something that I truly will still believe in. Um, the main thing is when you have some place that's, let's say, calm, relaxing, and stuff of that sort, life feels a lot better. Um, I don't know how many people escape to the internet and various other things. I personally would do that whenever I was struggling with something and I just wanted somewhere I could belong. And the main thing is like, you should belong somewhere. You shouldn't have to feel like you don't belong anywhere. So that's why I'm fine with people talking about their problems during streams or like extra baggage, that sort of stuff. Because we all need to belong somewhere. So we feel happy. So we feel accepted. We feel that we belong in this world and we want to continue living. That's my ideas of streams, videos, and stuff like that. I want people to feel like they belong. And sometimes to make people feel belong, you have to be real. There's always a stigma nowadays because social media, there's a bunch of fake individuals. They'll say whatever they want to make sure they can get the most amount of people to accept their ideals and stuff like that. And another thing is that they use identity as a correlating plausibility within this sort of conduct. They use that sort of stuff to be virtuous. They want to be the good guy. And the main fact of the matter is it's really hard to do that. So I find it extremely weird that people go out of their way to seem like a good person when they did absolutely nothing. That's why I don't believe I'm a good person, because I didn't do anything particularly good. I do good things, yes, but I have the same capacity to do bad things, and people will still say I'm a good person. The main thing is based off your interpretation of morality and society. Whoever you agree with is more than likely who you're going to find to be a good person, regardless of what their conduct is and how violent it is and how they can generally throw away another person's life without issue so long as it fits their narrative structure and their goals. The main thing is we're people. We are human beings first and foremost. And the idea of dehumanizing someone to attack them for your own ideals of promoting human rights, I believe is awful. That's not a good thing. And a lot of people have to go about it in a fake manner, where they obviously don't believe in it, or they do believe in it, but they only believe in it because of the narrative structure and everything else, so they don't seem evil or bad or anything of the sort. Also, people are hypocrites. I do not like hypocrites. I like to stay consistent with in terms of logic and stuff like that. And if I get caught up for being a hypocrite, I would love people to call me out on it, because I rather improve. A lot of people, they hide behind "I'm a good person" narrative structure whenever they get called out, and it's like, no, you're not. You're getting called out for a reason. So I don't know. I'd much rather just be real with everyone, have a stream of consciousness sort of thing, because it's very therapeutic. I don't have anything to hide. And heck, if you guys want to, you can put questions down below. I'll answer them during next video stream. I would be down for that. I would not mind it whatsoever. Hopefully by then I would be a lot more emotional in terms of voice. But I'm just kind of like waking up, which is fine. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this sort of thing. I'm going to be uploading them regardless. So there's some mental health stuff on the channel, where you guys can understand how my thought process is and stuff like that, because I don't want you guys to feel that you are not connected to me. I'm not someone immune to like disconnection with people or dissonance. I become very disconnected with people extremely easy because I'm very hard to talk with in terms of like personal things, but I would enjoy if you guys ask me personal questions. Despite that, because I want you guys to feel connected. So yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.